Hey fashion lovers, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Monique. If you are new here, kindly click on the subscribe button below to subscribe, and also click on the notification bell so you get updates when I post a new video. Today I'll be showing you how I made this monostrap dress with bishop sleeve and flounce. This is the fabric I'll be using, but I'll be drafting it on this plain lining before transferring it to the fabric. So the fabric is on a fold. This is the front and this is the back. I've already gone ahead to take 1 inch for the zipper allowance here, and the full length for the measurement is 45 inches, and I took 2 inches for seam allowance. So I'll start drafting the front before proceeding to the back. On the front, I'll first take the shoulder measurement, which is 15 divided by 2 will give us 7.5. I'm adding half an inch for seam allowance. Then I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope here. Then I'll be taking the front width. I'll be using 5 inches for this monostrap, 5 inch for the width. Then I'll connect it like this for the shoulder slope. Now I'll be taking the chest measurement from this 1 inch here. That is bust round divided by 6 plus 1.5, and for this measurement it is 8 inches. So I'll just draw it out like this. Then I'll place the shoulder measurement on the chest line, which is 8 inches here. Then I'll take a straight line. Now I'll be taking every other measurement from this shoulder line here. So the measurement I'll be taking is the shoulder to bust point, which is 11 inches. Then I'll mark across. Next measurement is the shoulder to waist, which is 17 inches. I'll also mark across. Then the next measurement I'll be taking is the shoulder to hip measurement, which is 26 inches. Then I'll also mark across. I've already taken the shoulder to full length, which is 45. I added 2 inches for seam allowance. Now to get the armhole, I'll get the midpoint of this line here, and it's 4 inches. Then I'll come in by 0.75 here. Then I'll connect it to the shoulder slope like this. After doing this, I'll get the bust circumference, and for this measurement it is 39 divided by 4 will give us 9.5. I'm adding 1.5 for seam allowance. Now I'll just use my armhole curve to connect it to this point. Now I'll be taking the bust span measurement, which is also called the princess. Princess for this measurement is 8 inches. 8 inches divided by 2 will give us 4. I'm adding half an inch, that is 4.5. I'm placing it on the bust point. I'll still place it on the waist here and also on the hip line here. Then I'll come up by 2 inches from the hip line like this. Then I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust point like this. Then I'll just take a straight line from this 1 inch I came down with to this other point on the hips. After doing that, I'll take half inch on both sides for my dart like this. Then I'll connect it to the bust point. I'll also connect this other side to the hip point. Now I'll be taking the waist circumference, and for this the waist is 31 divided by 2 will give us 7.5. I'm replacing this 1 inch I removed for the dart plus 1.5 inches. That will be 2.5 inches for seam allowance. Then on the hip is 41 divided by 4 will give us 10.25. Then I'm adding 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Because it's a pencil dress, I'll use the exact hip measurement on the full length, and the hip measurement is 10.25. I'm not adding seam allowance. Now I'll just connect the lines with my ruler like this. After doing that, I'll just cut it out. I'll start cutting it from the shoulder slope here until I get to the end. Now I'll place the front on the back. Remember, we took 1 inch for the zipper allowance. I'll place the front on this zipper line and I'll secure it with a pin. After doing that, the front armhole is deeper than the back armhole, so I'll just take half an inch this way from this center line and I'll reshape the back armhole. Then I'll just rule out these lines on the back, that is the chest line, waistline and hip line. Now I'll just trace it and cut it out like this. I'll just remove the front and trace the lines this way, the waistline, chest line, and the hip line. After doing that, I'll take the shoulder to back half length. The back half length is necessary for your back tightening to avoid zip bulge. So from this 16 inches, I'll come in by 0.75. Then I'll connect it to the end of the neckline here. Then from this same point, I'll connect it to the hip line here. After doing that, from this hip line, I'll connect it to meet these points of the zip line. Remember, it's a pencil skirt to give the back a nice fit. Before I cut it out, I'll go back to the front pattern to draft the neckline. Remember, it's a monostrap neckline. So from this shoulder line, I'll come down by 6 inches here. That is, I'm starting the measurement from this center line. That's from the center front line, like this, 6 inches. Then the next thing I'll do is to, remember we used 5 inches for our width, so I'll connect it from this 5 inches to meet that 6 inches I just took this way. From the center line, I'll take the front width measurement, and the front width for this measurement is 13 inches. 13 divided by 2 will give me 6.5. So I'll place the 6.5 inches here. From the shoulder slope to the chest line, I'll get the midpoint, and the midpoint is 4 inches. So from this 6 inches line for the monostrap, I'm going to put the 4 inches down here like this. Then I'll mark another straight line this way. This will serve as my new armhole. So this is me reshaping the armhole because it's off the shoulder. I'll just connect it this way like this. So this is our new armhole. So I'll be cutting it out this way and shape it like this and cut. So now that I'm done, I'll be placing this front on the back. So I'll be pinning this 1 inch for the zipper allowance. I'll pin it up so that it will align with the front. Then I'll place the front, the good side of the front on the good side of the back this way. Then I'll trace the neckline like this. So I'll just remove the pins. Then I'll cut out this excess I have for the zipper allowance that will avoid zip bulge. So we are done. I'll be transferring it to the fabric now. The lining is just for the purpose of the tutorials. So this is the fabric. I've gone ahead to cut it out. This is the front and this is the back. So now we'll be drafting the sleeve. This is the fabric I'll be using for the sleeve. And this is the pattern. I'll be dropping the link on the description box on how to draft the basic sleeve. But now I'll be showing you how to draft an off-shoulder sleeve. Remember, one side of the dress is an off-shoulder. So this is the full length. The full length is 22 inches. I added 2 inches for seam allowance. So the first measurement I'll be taking is the cap height. To get your cap height, you divide your bust round by 12 plus 1 inch. And for this measurement, the cap height is 4 inches. The next measurement is the shoulder to elbow, and for this measurement the shoulder to elbow is 12 inches. I'll just draw across it like this. So this is the full length and the seam allowance. So to get the width on the cap height, you divide your bust round by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So for this, the measurement is 8 inches. I'm adding 1 inch for seam allowance. So on the elbow, the measurement is 6. That is elbow round divided by 2 plus 1 inch for seam allowance. That will give me 7 inches. And on the full length, the wrist round is 9 inches. 9 inches divided by 2 gives us 4.5. I'm adding 1 inch for seam allowance. Now I'll just go ahead and connect it this way. Sorry, I forgot to connect the seam allowance, so I'm reshaping it this way. Remember, it's an off the shoulder sleeve. So to get where the off shoulder will sit, you get the full shoulder round measurement. And also another measurement we need is our front width measurement. We also need the back width measurement. So for this measurement, the front width is 13 inches and the back width is 13 inches. So when you add the front and the back together, that will give me 26 inches. And the shoulder round is 40 inches. So I'll minus 26 inches, which is the front and back width, from the 40 inches, which is the shoulder measurement. Then I'll be left with 14 inches. So I'll divide 14 by 4 it will give me 3.5 inches. So I'll place the 3.5 inches here. So I won't be adding any seam allowance. I'll just connect it from here straight to the bicep like this. Now I'll just cut it out. So on these folded parts at the top of the sleeve, you come down by 1 inch. You can either come down by 1 or 1.5 inches. So I'll just connect it to this point. It's not compulsory though. It just makes the sleeve to lay properly on the shoulder. So now I'll just place it and show you how it will look like when you fix it. So when I fix it on the dress, it will be like this. As you can see, it will align properly on the shoulder area. So we are making a bishop sleeve. So I'm going to do a slash and spread method. I'll check on the full length of the sleeve. I have about 10 inches. So I'm going to use 2 inches. I'm going to give space of 2 inches each on each line like this. Then I'll just take a straight line across like this. Then I'll place it on the second sleeve so that it will be equal. Then I'll also draw the line and I'll keep it aside. So the next thing I'll do is to cut through the lines, and I'll make sure I stop before the end of the sleeve because I don't want it to affect the armhole. So now I'll place it on the fabric. So I've secured it with a pin, and I left space of 4 inches on each side. I left space of 4 inches, and I made sure the armhole is intact. I didn't touch the armhole. Now I'll just cut it out. So this is our sleeve. I'll do the same thing for the second sleeve. So when I fold it and gather it, I'll gather it later. I'll do something like this later on. So now let's go back to the dress. So this is the back pattern of the dress. I'm going to fix the zip. So I'm going to check where the zip will stop and I'll mark it. So I'm using like 25 inches for where the zip will stop. So the good side will face the good side. I'm sewing on the wrong side, so I'm taking 1 inch from where the zip will stop. So that's where I'll sew. I will just pin it up and sew it and show you. So I've gone ahead to sew it here. I left about 9 inches for the slits. So the next thing I'll do is to fix the zip. So I've taken 1 inch for the zipper allowance, and I'm going to place this good side of the zip on the good side of the dress on top of the 1 inch I took, 1 inch line. Then I'll pin it up like this. So when I get to the end, I'll turn it over to the part that is stitched here. So I'll sew it till I get to the end of the zip. Then I'll flip it over this way, and I'll pick the good side of the zip to be on the 1 inch line. Then I'll pin it up also. When I get to the end, I'll make sure it's at the end of the stitch. So I'll sew it now. I've gone ahead to sew it. As you can see, I left about ½ an inch on the top part here. That's where I'll fix the flounce. Now I'll be taking the darts. Remember, I've already explained how to take your darts. I'm just trying to get the measurement. So I'll be holding it here like this, and I'll sew it. So I'll do the same on the other side, and I'll sew it and show you. I've gone ahead to fix the dart. This is the front dart on the 2 sides, and this is the back dart also on the 2 sides. So the next thing I'll do is to sew the shoulder. So I'll just pin it up. I'll sew it by ½ an inch. Remember, this side doesn't have a shoulder. The sleeve will make up for the shoulder. So now I'll be sewing here by 1.5 inches. Remember, I left 1.5 inches for seam allowance. So I'll also sew this other side by 1.5 inches and show you. So I've gone ahead to join the shoulder and also the 2 sides. Now to fix the sleeve, I'll be using this band. I'll be using this material for the band. So I've already taken the wrist round. For this measurement, the wrist round is 9 inches. So on a fold, it will give me 4.5 inches. I added half an inch for seam allowance. That's 5 inches. Then when I open it up and I check the full length, I have about 5 inches. So when I fold it, I have about 2.5 inches. I'm using half an inch for joining. So I added interfacing. So I'm going to fold it this way and I'll sew it by half an inch. So when I turn it over like this, I'll fold it to have 2.5 inches like this. So I'll gather the sleeve and show you what to do. So I've gathered it. I used 4.5 inches to gather it and I left about 1 inch for joining. So I'll just pin it up and show you. So that's how I'll sew it by 1 inch. When I turn it over, I'll place the band on this part that is gathered. Remember, they are equal now. So I'll just tuck it in this way. Then I'll turn it over like this. Then I'll sew it round by half an inch. As you can see, I'm done with the sleeve. This process gives the sleeve a very neat finishing. So the next thing I'll do is to join the sleeve to the dress. So on this armhole area, that's this part I have joined, this stitched part, I'm going to join it to the other stitched part of the dress. The good side will face each other here. Then I'll pin it up. So I'm going to sew it this way. Remember, this other side, this is the off shoulder part. This side will be open like this. So on the second sleeve, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just place the sleeve all around. So I'll sew it and show you. So I've gone ahead to join the sleeve, as you can see. To cut the flounce, I'm going to measure the neckline starting from this stitch part of the shoulder. So the flounce, there won't be flounce on this part. So the flounce will start from this shoulder side, this stitch part, till I get to the end of where the zip stops here. So I'll just measure it. I have about 32 inches. So I'll be using 32 inches to cut the flounce. So this is the pattern I'll be using to cut the flounce. I've gotten the center line of the pattern paper. So I'll just take a straight line this way and I'll draw across it like this with another straight line. So I'm going to make like a cycle. I'll use 3 inches all around to form a cycle. So after getting these 3 inches, the flounce is a high-low flounce. So I'll start taking the 3 inches from any points of this straight line. So I'll start taking the 3 inches. Then I'll start increasing it from these points. So I'll be using 5 inches here. So I'll just draw it out like this or shape it out. So I'll just check it to see if I have about 32 inches. I'll just measure it from this point here. So I'll just cut it out from here. So I'll measure it again and see if it's up to what I need. So I have about 34 inches, which is okay. I can easily cut it out, cut the excess out. So it's a high-low flounce. One part is higher than the other side. So I'm trying to secure it with a pin. I'm going to cut it on the fabric. I'll just cut it out and show you what to do. So this is the flounce. So I'll be hemming the full length by half an inch. So I'll fold it this way and refold it again. But you can use a bias tape to do this if it will be difficult folding it and stitching at the same time. So I'll do it all round to the end. Now I'll place the good side of the flounce on the wrong side of the dress. I'm starting from this part that has shoulder. The lower side of the flounce will be on the part with shoulder, and the longer part will be on the off shoulder side. So I'll just pin it all through to the end. So I'll be stopping here where the zip stops. When I turn it over, it will look like this. So I'll go ahead and sew it and show you. So I'll be weaving this part later. I've gone ahead to sew it. So this is what it looks like. So I started fixing the flounce from this shoulder part that is stitched. So I've gone ahead to cut out an interfacing I'll be using to turn the back neckline. So I'll fix it from this zip point, then I'll pin it up and I'll join it by 1/2 inch. Then on this other side of the zip, I'll sew very close to the zip by 1/2 inch also. So I'm trying to pin it up to show you what it would look like when I sew it. So when I turn it over like this, this is how it will be when I sew it. Then on the full length, on this slit part, I'm going to sew it. I'm going to stitch it by 1 inch. So I'll first fold it by 1/2 inch and refold it again by 1/2 inch. Then I'll stitch it. So I'll do the same thing on the second slit. Then on the full length, I'll be sewing it by 2 inches, but I'll first fold it by 1/2 inch, then refold it by 1.5 inches. Then I'll sew it like this till I get to the end. So this is the final project. We are done with the dress. This is the flounce. So this is the part, the back neckline that I didn't add flounce, that I used facing to turn it over. This is the neckline. This is the sleeve, and also the full length that I just did. I used 2 inches to turn it over, and on the slit I used 1 inch to turn it over. So we've come to the end of today's tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, share and like. Thanks for watching. Bye.